Hello and welcome back to my YouTube series on the 1/10 scale Bronco. And when I say 1/10 scale, that's kind of the subject of today's video. I want to take a minute to kind of talk about scale and how scale plays into the size of the vehicle. If you know that this Bronco here is an SCX10 3, so it's a 1/10 scale crawler. But there's so many comments online that go, wow, this Bronco's bigger than I expected it to be. I know I had that same impression when I saw this at Oshkosh last summer. I was like, wow, that Bronco looks pretty good size. But I didn't really have much to compare it to. It was in a lineup of other early Broncos and some base camps. So I didn't have a really good idea of exactly what scale it was. But in my mind, 1/10 scale is this here, this Focus WRC car here from Tamiya. So this looked considerably bigger. So I thought, let's take some time here and kind of go over scale and why scale is so important when you deal with an RC vehicle. So I'm going to kind of start over on the far end here and kind of work our way over. I have a couple vehicles here. I got a Matchbox or a Hot Wheels. I think it's actually a Matchbox series, but it's the same thing. These are basically 1/64th scale vehicles. Most of us know exactly what size a Hot Wheels or a Matchbox car is, right? So they're relatively small, and people are very familiar with that. And the next one I have here is two 1/24th scale vehicles, right? I got a 1/24 scale SN95 Mustang here that's very old. I built that thing when it was those were brand new in '94, so that is a very old model. And I have the SCX24 Bronco, which is scaled actually very well to 1/24 scale. So when I say 1/24 scale, what exactly does that mean? Well, if you were to take 24 of these Broncos or 24 of these Mustangs and line them up end to, nose to tail, and you got all 24 of them, and you set that right against the side of an actual 94 Mustang, you would have the right length of the vehicle, right? So 1/24 scale means that this Mustang here and this Bronco here are 1/24th the size of an actual Mustang or an actual Bronco. So think of it this way: if you were to take a Mustang or a Bronco and measure the length and divide by 24, you would have the length of these two vehicles. And Axial did a really good job on the SCX24 Bronco, meaning the fact that it's pretty correct in terms of its proportions, its size. There's a lot of guys who take 1/24 scale plastic car bodies, like this Mustang here, and they'll stick it on the chassis here, and it lines up relatively well. It's always difficult when you try to do that because wheelbases change and things like that. So the fact that so many people are able to do it on the SCX24s and actually have it look good is pretty impressive, because that's kind of a rarity that things will line up that well, especially when things are actually built to scale. Because if I stuck an Explorer body on this, let's say I picked a first gen Explorer body and stuck it on here, those are completely different size vehicles than the Bronco. And if I took a Bronco Sport body and stuck it on here, it would be way too small, because the Bronco Sport is considerably smaller, same as the two-door 1/24 Bronco as well. So the next two vehicles I have here are both Focuses. They have one here that's 1/18th scale, and this one here is a 1/10th scale touring car from Tamiya. The 1/18 scale car here, if you were to line 18 up these in a row, you would have the length of a Mark I Focus. And these diecast models are scaled very correctly, just the same as a 1/24 scale car. There's a number of diecast model cars and plastic cars that are scaled correct. So if you took a measurement off an actual Focus and divided it by 18, you'd get this size here. So if you were, let's say, you want to design some graphics or some 3D printed parts for this 1/18 scale car, you could go out and measure a real one, divide by 18, and then print your decals, 3D print your parts, and they would fit right on here, and everything would be to scale. This is when things start to turn a little bit weird. The 1/10 scale cars, such as this really nicely done Tamiya that unfortunately I have beat on for many years now, is fairly correct in terms of its proportions. But 1/10 scale touring cars aren't necessarily 1/10 scale model cars, right? They're not exactly the right scale in proportion, even though I think the Tamiya cars do a really good job of capturing the scale look. They're kind of stuck with the wheelbase and track width that comes from the chassis. It runs on a 1/10 scale touring car chassis, and that wheelbase is set, that track width is set. So they have to stretch and tweak the bodies a little bit so that they actually will fit the confines of